This is John Kramer, and you're listening to the Not Snowboarding Podcast.
Are you into snowboarding, surfing, skateboarding, or just trying to catch some bodacious rays? Then Let It Block has you covered. Let It Block is a mineral-based sunscreen, perfect for an active lifestyle.
Peeling dead skin off after a sunburn is a lot of fun. However, doing this often can lead to serious health concerns. Nate and I aren't as nerdy as you might think or hear in Nate's voice. We actually do get outside in hella sunny weather and need a sunscreen that will protect without the use of harsh chemicals.
Let It Block sunscreens are mineral-based, paraben-free. They protect against both UVA and UVB rays. They provide water-resistant protection for up to 80 minutes, and they are FDA approved for everyday use.
Whether you're at the beach, enjoying a sunny day on the slopes, playing a game of skate in an empty parking lot for some leftover french fries, getting pitted while crowd surfing at a lit AF music festival, or finally getting out of the dark room in your parents' basement to play Pokemon Go, Let It Block is your go-to in sunscreen.
Let It Block comes in 2 SPF 30 varieties, including their original formula and Sun DMC. For our fairer skin fans, use the Goth Block. It's rated at SPF 50.
When I've been fully consumed by a Stranger Things binge-watching marathon in the darkest possible room in my house, I grab Goth Block. If I've been sponging on my boogie board for weeks and I already have a decent base tan going, Sun DMC is my jam.
They are also the official sunscreen of the Surfrider Foundation. Let It Block is extending a special offer to the Not Snowboarding Podcast audience. Order 2 packages of sunscreen or more and receive 40% off by using discount code TNSP at letitblock.com. That offer is valid through the end of this year, 2016. It's a $12 savings, and oh, by the way, the holidays are coming up. Let It Block also makes the perfect gift. Use one for yourself and give one to your special someone. And in other news, if you're in the Salt Lake City area next weekend, check out the Salt Lake City Shred Fest. There will be music, there will be snowboarding, there will be lumberjacking, and our own AJ Lawson will be emceeing the event. That's on November 5th, and you can get tickets at shredfestival.com. Welcome to the Not Snowboarding Podcast, episode number 48, with John Kramer and Jason Smith. So I just got back from an impromptu road trip. My buddy Nick Geeson called me up just to talk, and during that conversation, he mentioned that he was driving to Tahoe in a week or so from Virginia, and that he'd done the trip many, many times, but he'd never done it alone. So I volunteered to ride along and figure out a way to fly back at the end of the trip. And just a couple days after that call, we took off, and along the way, we got to skate tons of really fun skate parks, mostly in the Denver area, but a few in Middle America as well. We were able to wrap up the final testing for the Shred Soul skateboarding insole on that trip, and I'll have the production samples next week, and they'll be available to the general public right around the holidays. Anyways, I'm writing a blog post that covers that trip, and it'll be published on the Shred Souls blog shortly. While AJ was home for a few days this summer, we trekked it up to John's house near Seven Springs, Pennsylvania for the day with the intent of recording a podcast episode. And little did we know that we'd be in for one of the most fun days of our lives. When we got to John's, he asked if we wanted to record the episode before or after going out for a few laps in his rally car. And AJ and I both looked at each other and said after right away, thinking that that would be the most fun way to do the episode. And I think it was. AJ made an edit that's in the show notes on the website that shows us ripping around the back roads with John. It's really cool to watch, but it doesn't even scratch the surface on being able to convey the feeling of what it was like to be strapped into John's car, ripping down a narrow road with trees on both sides, and then sliding around a blind corner. So John and Jason, I first met these two on the very first day that I worked at Pit Crew. It was a big festival day called In the Streets, and they came to the shop to help out. I've never told either of them this, but I was pretty starstruck at the time. I knew both of them from the snowboard magazines, and it was really rare for me to actually meet a professional snowboarder in those days. A funny story from that day, the shop had ordered pizza for all the employees, and I actually made fun of one of them, if not both of them. I don't remember if it was Jay or John, because they peeled the cheese off of the pizza, and I couldn't understand how anyone could eat pizza without cheese. Anyway, since that day, I've been lucky enough to be able to get to know both of them over the years via their roles in the industry. Jay is most recently the sales manager at Element and Plan B Skateboards, and we'll get into John's current role at Hoonigan during the episode. Jay once got me so good with a prank that it hurts me to even think about it to this day. Maybe we'll get him to tell that story on a future episode. So Jason and John get really deep into many of the aspects of racing a rally car in this episode. They share stories from times that they've crashed, what it's like to be a co-driver, and what it takes to participate. John mentions that the driving is kind of almost like the easy part. So let's get into the episode with John and Jason in John's shop. AJ, do you think you can kind of like kick us off, like set the stage? Tell folks where we're at, what we're doing, what we did? Or is that too much?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. Are we recording right now?
We are 100% good.
Okay.
Everything's good.
Yeah, it's been hard to transition because we've just been talking. But
it's been a good day.
It's been a great day. So to let all our listeners know, we are in Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Did I say it right?
Close enough.
Oh, how do you say it?
Ligonier.
Ligonier. Yeah. We're in Ligonier, Pennsylvania.
Bless you.
Gesundheit. Thank you. Mazel tov. We're with John Kramer and Jay Smith. And we had a rad day ripping around on a rally car. I've never been in a rally car before. And that was like life-changing. I think I'm down with rally now. I want to join you guys. I want to be a part. I'm like, is this the scene? The Pennsylvania scene is here? Or the Southwestern PA rally car scene?
Big portion of the rally scene in
Actually, Ligonier, we hold it down.
the hotbed.
We went to the spot today. We went to the local
Don't tell
spot.
about the secret spots.
No,
I'm not telling anybody.
no
the
coordinates.
TF.
Yeah.
I'm not telling anyone, but I'm ready to get a car and start ripping the roads.
Do you have a car?
Yeah, I have a SUV. I used to have a minivan.
Don't be embarrassed about it. I'm just saying we could convert it, whatever it is.
Can you?
Sure.
Pretty much anything.
Yeah. Cage it and have at it.
I have a Prius.
We had a really good friend.
I would guess Prius. That was my. I didn't want to judge him. Be that dude. I was going to say he's probably got like an electric. And no diss on it, but you're LA and thinking electric Prius something crunchy. Which is a good thing,
I wish. I kind of like recently I've been like an autonomous electric car is like the dream to me. That's like, oh my God, that sounds so rad.
Does autonomous just means that it's independent from a wall? Oh, self-driving.
Self-driving.
See, that's horrible to me. The electric's cool, but the self-driving thing.
Well, now I'm like, just by sitting in the car and seeing you like
good
do like use it as not just point A to point B. Mm-hmm. It's like I don't know, like a tool to do like a craft.
You ride it.
I was
going to say we have a really good friend in Oregon, Dave Henderson, that is a snowboarder and a motocross guy. He kind of stepped away from it, but a really accomplished rally driver. And I had conversations with him, and I've seen it on snow. A lot of rally, you have to look at the terrain, and you have to know mud's going to be slippy, and it's a lot like snowboarding.
Yeah,
that'll be icy, so I have to just apply different pressure. It translates. It's weird. The terrain translates the visual part of it.
Yeah, I can see that. That understanding of like reading something, like
how much you finesse, like the steering wheels. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's a very similar mindset.
We were talking about it earlier, relating it to how much edge pressure you give for different terrain as you see it coming.
Exactly like that. Like, so you look at a corner and like, that's muddy, so I can only I have to turn the wheel more or less. It's how you set the car up because you're sliding, so it's all of those things. It's like the same part of the brain.
Yeah, you're not going to try to spray someone with snow if you can tell it's hard pack. It's not going to work. Or you're not going to try to, carve if it's completely bulletproof and you can't. You just got to kind of survive it. And it's the same with... And that's what's cool about the terrain, and that's what I explained to you guys. Like, my car's not terribly fast, but on that terrain, you're just constantly moving. So it's how far you're floating from where you want to be and where you are going to end up, and just figuring out where the car is going to drift to, or where you want to end up or don't want to end up, and making changes to keep it there.
And you're in the trees, so you have to pay attention to not cloud coverage so much, but tree coverage. So if it had rained, it's wetter under the trees, and it's like if you're
you saw it with the sun.
Oh yeah, that was the scariest thing for me.
Right.
We came around a tight blind corner pretty much, and then it was boom, sun, and all I'm looking at is 1 foot in front of me, just yellow windshield basically. I'm like, how is he driving? How's he navigating?
Right.
Yeah, the change in light, because our eyes don't have like that dynamic range to be like adjust that quickly, I feel like.
Right.
The second time it happened, I started to look through the tinted part of the windshield more, and that helped. Is that just instinctual to you? Or?
No, I don't use it is there for the sun so it doesn't blind you, but I think what probably helped is I was probably looking further ahead. Mm-hmm. So by the time you were blinded, I already knew what was up there, or at least like knew about how fast we could go into it. And I was hoping that maybe we'll hit shade by the time we need to react. And that is what happened, but it wasn't, I got blinded too.
Sure.
But I wasn't like, oh no, and like, let go of the steering wheel and wreck into the trees. It was more of just all you can do is hang on.
Same thing happens snowboarding, and you use the force. That's what I always call
it.
It is. You're using the force. Okay, I'm going blind right now, but I kind of know in my mind what the map of this thing should be, and I can see
muscle
again.
memory that kicks in.
And it's crazier because we usually have someone in the car telling us what we should be seeing.
Yeah.
So they're telling us ahead. So you're always a couple turns ahead, and especially at night, you can't see where you want to look. So you have all this trust, and it's like, I fucking hope you're right. Yeah. Because if you're not, we're going to go into the trees really fast.
Do you guys use that? I used to watch World Rally many years ago. Do you use the language that they use? Like, it's the numbers?
Yeah, and adapted. So in the U.S., they do, basically somebody has a computer in a car and they drive the road and it dictates the numbers.
Oh, so it's a software.
Yeah, and sometimes you can, over time. So if I've done a race and John hasn't, I'll give him my notes from that event of like, here's my modifications to the notes. And if you do an event a couple times, you keep your notes and you hone them.
So usually it's minor changes. There's usually not like a blatant thing where you're supposed to be going right and it's telling you to go left. Like that doesn't normally happen. It probably could, but the things that get changed are like distances. Like the computer generated deal almost gives you too much information, where it'll say, it might give distances of like 30 rather than 50, and 30 is such a short distance that you can't do anything anyway. So there's no sense in telling me that. Just tell me this turn to the next turn, and I'll know what to set up the car in between and not have to worry about. Because you have to process everything. Like you hear this long string of dialogue of, right 4 over crest and the left 5 short, and you've got to paint that picture and know where you're going to do it. And the less you hear, in my case, I'm not good at hearing and processing way out there. When things get really busy and start happening, I can't do it fast enough to commit to it. But if it's simple, if it's like you're going to go really fast going right and then you're going to keep going really fast to the left, like that's easier and you can stay in it. But if it's real technical and lots of distance and lots of plus minus type stuff, I can get lost and I'll let off. If I'm lost, I'll just slow down to try to.
There's no go back. There's no repeat. There's no time for that sort of thing.
There's no reset button.
Yeah. Do you get like in a race? You get one run, like one time run for the.
It's all combined. So rally is made up of, and that's why you guys are asking about the car, why if it's plated or legal or any of that stuff, and you have to run on public roads to get from. So like the road that we ran today was pretty. Consistent with what we would run. It's dirt, gravel, kind of like, think of like fire roads or like something through like a state park.
Yeah.
And then that road may be a 10-mile road that you race on. You get a start time and a finish time. They time how fast you do that section, and then you transit to the start of the next stage, which might be 5 miles down the road. It might be 50 miles down the road. And then you'll start your next stage there that might be 8 miles. And they'll add that up through a full day or maybe even a 2-day thing, and you'll get cumulative time of this is your rally time. And that's
wow.
So you're the transit, you're not racing on transit obviously, but you're adding up all of your stages. And if you have 10 stages, they all add up to maybe it's an hour and 20 minutes of driving total. But it's crazy that there might be an hour and 20 minutes, but it might be decided by tenths of a second because everybody's so close.
I was nerding out and looking at your stats, and there were some of them where you have your place, which mostly was first. And then the next guy was, like you said, just tenths of a second behind. That's over how many stages? That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's not just like we did 1/4 mile.
That's like 10th of seconds, no, nothing.
Right. And it's also that the cool thing that I like about rally is the adventure in between the start and finish, because just because you got that time, and you may have ran your best race ever for 90% of it, but maybe you went off in the woods and through the weeds and bounced off a tree and saved it, or did something crazy, but you still got a decent time. But you could have done better if you wouldn't have messed up.
Right.
But everybody has that. So you're racing against guys that they're probably making mistakes, and you may be benefiting because they took a little shortcut that they shouldn't have. And same with you, like you may screw up. I mean, snow's like that. When we do snowdrift in Michigan, you're gonna go off the road. Like there's no way that you're not gonna put a wheel in a ditch or run over something, or because it's all snow and you can't, unless you're driving super super slow. I don't think you can stay on the road and not have some sort of like the feeling of like we almost wrecked there. So
when you took us out today, what were you giving it in the scope of things? Of 100% is I'm at a race and I'm taking some friends out. Was that like 30%?
No, I mean we were over 50 for sure. I didn't want, you guys didn't have a full gear, so I wasn't trying to hurt you. And I don't want to be stuck in the woods either. Like we don't have it's a long walk back down. So 75%. We're going pretty quick. Where and I'm also I tried to make it slide certain turns. Like maybe I would have taken a cleaner line through some of the stuff just to make it faster. Sideways isn't always fast, but it's fun. Yeah. But the stuff like through where we came through, like the S turn where you guys were where you parked at. It probably would have cleaned that up and not hit you in the chest with a rock.
That was my own fault.
It's probably a little pebble and probably
I was standing. I didn't tell you this yet, Jay. I was standing on the corner pretty early in the turn on a rock on a big boulder with my phone out to film it. I was like, "This is going to be great." It was the first time they were coming by, and I was like, "I just don't want to get hit." So I'm trying to put a little bit of foliage in between me and the car. And sure thing, as soon as he breaks the tail around, bing! I get pinged in the chest. I reach for a tree to stabilize myself. The tree's covered in thorns, so now I've got stickers in my hand, and I kind of yelp at that, and I fall off the rock, and I miss most of the shot. And roll my ankle, too.
I wish we had someone filming that.
We were talking about random interactions, and someone came up to me one time, and they're just like, my first rally, you hit me in the chest. It was a girl. She's like, you hit me in the chest with a rock. I was just like, is that good or bad? Like,
yeah.
Was that, were you stoked or you bummed on me? Were you...
and like...
But they were stoked. So
it wasn't on purpose, so it's like a weird thing, like, sorry, thank you.
Honor scar or something?
My first rally was with you and Tip and Malcolm up at Wellsboro, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't participating.
No, I remember.
We were watching it and camping, and just the picture of the night stages is like etched in my mind because it's in the woods and you can see these hot glowing orbs coming from, I don't know, a quarter of a mile away, and you can hear them for sure, but it's just the brakes, the disc brakes glowing coming through the forest.
And you're glad you got to witness that because they no longer run night stages.
I heard that.
So you got to probably see the water crossing.
Oh my God, yeah, that was great.
Done. No more water crossing, more.
What is that?
There's actually like a stream, and you have to you end up crossing the river. It's part of the race, and so it's a good spectator point. It was that you could watch.
So like hydroplane, like
it's shallow enough that you would make it through, but it was like a muddy bank on the other side to get out.
Mud bog,
and people would just like completely get stuck in the middle or not be able to get out. Like it was a
lot of people would slow down before and just cross it at normal speed because they didn't want to. There's so much risk.
It was also
coming
early
in
the day.
Yeah,
and that's the biggest thing about rally. It's like an endurance, and you have to be capable to finish at the end.
Yeah,
so you can be a hero and not make it to the end, and it's not too fun.
Yeah,
it seemed like so much like physically engaged and fit. Like even just what you were showing us, like it was like riding something. Like you had to, and the way you talked about like shifting weight and finessing, it was
actually that's like the biggest thing with snow. You shift the weight of the car, so you're always like riding a snowboard. You're moving the weight forward to back and side to side, and you're setting it up. And
well, I noticed that going into the 90-degree turn that we were at, you kind of like set the suspension up a lot more than I thought you would have for that turn, just based off of my limited driving experience. Yeah. And maybe that was some of what you were saying where, hey, I want to slide this more than we should to have fun.
Yep.
Because you really, I mean, it looked like you were turning at me to set up. I was like, wow.
It's a flick. So I'm basically setting the car up the opposite way. and that makes the weight transfer. It starts the rotation. That's exactly what you're doing. You're just kind of giving it a whip to like start the turn, and then you're also doing, it's when you apply the gas or how much or when you lift off to help with that weight transfer, and that does it. So
it also looked like it may have changed your line as far as like where the apex of the turn would be. Like you almost can kind of just cheat the turn a little bit that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just guessing based off of what I saw.
No, that's totally it too. Yeah, and it's funny because people always have the misconception with Subarus that you've got to yank the e-brake. Like everybody always wants to like pull the e-brake, and I never use it. It's just not you can do that stuff a few different ways, and one of them is what we did. You just flick it, get the car to start rotating, and then catch it with the throttle and get it to go the other way. Where you probably could do almost the same thing with the e-brake if you hit it the same way. But I don't know. I like doing it with the gas pedal because it's fun. I mean, you're just let off, hammer again, and you're throwing rocks, and there's something fun about that.
In a race setting, you kind of need to gas because you need to gas out of it. Like if you're e-braking,
especially
like slow down too much.
So my car's non-turbo, so it's all about momentum. And so if you're sliding sideways a lot, you scrub a ton of speed and you slow down. It's like instead of carving, if you're just spraying powder, it's fun. You're making a big cloud. You're spraying your friends, but you're slowing down. You're really you're slowing your speed down. You're losing speed. Where if you can keep it straight, you're still going to slide and move because of the marble surface of the road, but you can hold a line better and you don't lose the speed and you keep that momentum because like right after that turn is a long straightaway and you want to be going as fast as you can on that straightaway. That's where you make up time because I don't have the power. My turbo's not just going to kick in and go. So whatever speed I can hold through the turn is what I have exiting the turn, and that's a big part of keeping a non-turbo car going fast.
You two have been friends for a long time, and through snowboarding and through multiple businesses.
Yep.
Who came to rally first? How did that happen?
Jay had the first. He was the first commitment. He got the stage car, so he got a full caged Subaru open light car. I don't know what year it was. 5 years ago?
No, it's
longer.
Maybe.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
But I don't know. We came up.
Actually,
together.
I think it came from Malcolm at Pit Crew because he's just Scottish and he always talked about rally.
Yeah.
And I went to Japan pretty early and saw like a real WRX, and like John had been like the same time, so we kind of came through it together and saw the cars and experienced it. And then we just got to a point in life that was like we're gonna do it. Like bought a car and started, and then.
It's funny you mentioned Malcolm with rally, and because the videos that he would watch were these boxes. These cars are just very boxy and old,
right?
Like 1970s, maybe even 60s, but just very angular and like names that names that as an American you never hear of, and they just don't look like sports cars at all. What we associate with sports cars, but he was into that, and the whole time that I've known him too.
I credit it to Malcolm.
Yes.
From ever. That's my introduction to rally.
Yeah, and the other part would just be, applying.
Ali Belay too.
Ali for sure, because Ali broke both of his wrists one year at a contest or something, and I was living out in Utah, and he would be like, "Hey, you want to come over?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll hang out." And it wasn't just to hang out with them. He just couldn't make his own sandwiches because he had no wrists. So I'd like make the dude peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I always blame him for sparking interest in rally because he had at that point he was an Audi guy, but he also
had an Audi graphic on one of his boards at least, right?
Right,
on the joyride board.
Yeah.
Yep. Because he had that was the Audi 90. He had that car, but then he also had a Mazda. It was a Mazda 323 GTX, which was a 80s. They made it from like 87 to 89.
80s, like they made a couple 1,500 of them to make it legal for a class.
Yep.
So
so 1,500 in the world. This guy has one, and his was set up to go do rallycross with me. I didn't even know what that was, but he took me one day, and I got to do a ride along, and it was just like, just riding around, ripping around the field, just. Full throttle, kind of what we did today, but just in an open field with cones that you're going around and just throwing rocks and, laughing about it, and him probably listening to dance hall music really loud or something crazy. And I was hooked. I was like, this is it. And I think that was the I think the end of the winter, and then the next winter when I moved back to Utah, I didn't have a car. I moved out there with no car, but I started, looking through the papers, and I bought a 4000 Quattro, which is it was an 87 Audi Quattro, and there's nothing fast about it. It might be 130 horsepower, but it was all-wheel drive, and it was a $400 car, $500 car, so I didn't care about it. And we would just load up and just, anytime it snowed, just go attack the streets. And then
it led to Mount Hood with e-brakes and bumming people out with rental cars. And summers at Hood with just beating up
that car, that driving style.
Well, paying $9 to have the insurance on the rental car so that you could just drive it like a race car. And I mean, I sent a car back on a flatbed. I won't say where.
But the Timberland Road or like
anywhere, like
everywhere.
Mammoth.
Around
Mammoth. We had a Saturn one time, and we took it back with like cowboy pinstripes because we were just going on these crazy dirt roads that had like tumbleweeds or whatever they were, and they were just scratching the crap out of the
cowboy pinstripes.
Yeah, and we.
I think we had to get a razor blade because the car was plastic and like cut them off.
Yeah, we wouldn't let
it was so obvious. Like we screwed it up so bad.
Willie Belf wanted to drive so bad, and we were just like, nope, can't do it. Like we made him sit in the back seat. He probably got car sick from riding around back there, but we ripped around. We spent a whole day instead of snowboarding, just ripping around all these dirt roads and trying to jump and do whatever we could. So that was a good build up. And then also you saw the roads around here. Yeah. I mean, they're twisted. Yeah. There's no straight roads, and that's what we'd have to get to Seven Springs with. That covered with snow. So it's a snow rally every day. Like, he would pick me up. I would think we're going to school. He would drive right past the school, and we'd end up skipping and trying to make our way up to Seven Springs, and we always did. But it was part of the original stages. If there was a stage rally on those roads, we'd have a pretty good advantage because we kind of know those pretty well.
Seems like Subaru is a pretty big or popular car in snowboarding.
Yeah,
that's like.
Yeah, and I'm surprised more like snowboard. There's a handful of guys that are into rally, but I'm surprised there's not more just because of the fact that it's a Subaru and just the purpose that it was built for. Like it's such a good all-weather car, definitely in the snow, definitely in the dirt, and I was telling you about that earlier. That was one thing that I kind of trip out when people have like really nice cars that they're probably just making payments on anyway, but they don't want to use them. They don't want to put miles on them, or they don't want to like load people up. Or I had one friend I always laugh because he wouldn't let us pick up pizza in his car because he's like, "Oh, it'll smell like pizza." I'm like, pizza smells wonderful. Why wouldn't you want your car to smell like pizza?
I got a pizza air freshener. Come on.
Yeah, and but when I got rid of, I had like a Honda Civic that I, babied and would not take in the snow because I know it's something. I'm like, that's so stupid. And then when I got the Audi, it kind of set me free. Like now I had this crappy car. We could load up like 8 of us in there. If we got stuck, we had people to push, and you could just hammer on this thing. And if it died, like light it on fire and leave it. Like just walk away. It's just a nicer feeling when you're not worried about a possession. Like, oh, what if I put this into a ditch? When you pass that point and you no longer care what happens to it, like you can do some pretty cool things with it.
I mean, you treat your car like a skateboard.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm at $40. I'm gonna.
It's even better when you get them for free and you're just like, fuck it, I'll get another one.
So you free cars, free skateboards.
Free cars? I don't get free cars. I just have shitty cars.
I thought, does Hoonigan give free rally cars?
I hope they do. No.
Next month.
That'd be nice.
Next month.
Always next month. Free beer tomorrow.
Free beer tomorrow.
It's funny you mentioned Seven Springs and Subarus. Tim and Malcolm both got WRXs, the owners of Pit Crew, the shop that I worked at, and then they did a snow day the year that they got them for everyone at the shop. And you either rode up with Tim or Malcolm, and I rode up with Malcolm, and Tim took the turn. It's a really hard turn, like I don't know what the degrees are, but more than 90 into Seven Springs from the direction that we go. And there's some loose gravel there, but it's a regular road. And Tim took it like a normal human would, and then Malcolm came behind him. Just out of nowhere, Malcolm's conservative 99.9% of the time. But when he goes off, it's like, it's pent up. He comes in super hot. Like, I thought we were going to miss the turn. It does an e-brake turn, which is what, you said. We weren't in a race, but fully perfect. I mean, we went from probably like 55 to going around that corner in mid-40s to right into Seven Springs.
Right.
Didn't ever address that it happened or anything.
That's a good turn. It's off camera too.
It was so gnarly.
and trees on the outside.
Yeah.
So.
And
high stakes.
You thought about it before.
Oh yeah, I've done it before.
You've done it
but I can imagine Malcolm going around it though. That's good.
Have you ever ripped around springs in a car, like on the mountain?
Yeah, and I have, and I try to keep it low because I watched a kid with a pretty new, nice Subaru, and I had my truck, so I was like, I might do a donut in the truck, but I can't do anything great with it. And I watched him. I don't know if he pulled the e-brake or what he did, but at some point, the car was doing what it should do. It was just kind of, transferring weight side to side, and he either got scared or he did something wrong, and all of a sudden just, should have went left, went right, and just put the thing into the guardrail in the upper parking lot and just destroyed the full quarter panel and the whole side of it. And I drove over and like, you guys all right? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I just, I'll help you if I can, but I feel really bad for you right now because I know you were having fun a minute ago, and now it's over because, your car's. I know you care about your car more than I would, so it's going to hurt.
What have some of your worst wrecks been?
I've rolled 3 separate times. First one was with Jay. The car wasn't caged, so that was probably the worst one.
That was my worst wreck.
Who was driving?
The roof collapsed.
I was driving. No, the roof didn't collapse. I mean, your stock average car is pretty strong, and we didn't touch the roof. We ended up. It was like a 90-degree turn at the end of a straightaway. So
sorry to interrupt. Were you guys like racing or just out driving? Or
it was at Summit Point. It was a rally cross, so it was like it's supposed to be a safe event. And I'm not saying rally crosses aren't. So don't be afraid to try it. But what it was is it was a learning experience for me because it was probably my first or second year doing it, and we had winter tires in the car rather than a true rally car. Rally tires are real stiff.
I think it was the first or second race. And
it might have been.
And we figured it out pretty quick, and we got going, and I'll let you tell your story, but we learned about ruts.
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting to. So the lesson we learned was ruts. This was the very last run of the day, and I wanted fastest. Yeah, it was the last run. That's exactly what happened. I don't know which one of us called it, but I think we did. And also the cones get moved out, so now you're going way faster than you were earlier in the day. And we went into this 90-degree turn with a lot of speed.
I actually recall it. There was corners before it that John didn't take the best prior runs, and then this last run he really took those setup corners well. So he came out with so much more speed, and then we came into a corner with however many more miles per hour, and didn't translate. The braking didn't change.
So, like the turn I took you guys on today, like where the truck was, a turn similar to there, but now add in a 15 or 18 inch deep rut from cars running on it all day. And when the front wheel dropped into it, it just peeled the tire right off of it, and the rim dug in, and we went twice over the nose and back and back onto the tire. So we never touched the roof. We just destroyed the front end. Mirrors were gone, and car was still running. And I either put it in neutral or clutched in or something when we were spinning. And I'm like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And Jay was like, "I'm good." You said you cut your hand because you had glass from the. I think. Well, his window was gone. I mean, his windshield. It went on his side, unfortunately, so he got the worst of it. And as soon as he said he was okay, I just dropped the clutch and went. And they had to flag me down, stop me.
I'm trying to get my time, man.
Gotta finish the race here. Come on, boys.
You're just not thinking straight. I mean, I know
no
looking
time
back.
To be a pussy.
Yeah, looking back, that was dumb. But in my head, it was just we can still do it. Like
we can still do it. We got this.
This was good.
I made it.
And we made a few feet. They stopped us, and then like I said, everybody else looked like white as a ghost, and we were fine. We were just like, oh, we're good. Shake it off.
I think we had a life of beating the shit out of ourselves.
Yeah.
Snowboarders was like, fuck, what?
Right.
A little bit of blood.
Yeah.
And was this the 5-point harness like we had today?
Oh, no, this is seatbelt.
This is straight,
seatbelt.
Oh, like this, just like a normal seatbelt.
Yeah.
And a helmet?
With helmet for sure, yeah.
Were you guys still running skate helmets at that time?
Skate helmet. Little bike helmet from Walmart. You should be all right. Karate helmet, the soft pattern one.
Well, I've known of some guys that have tried to use some non-DOT spec helmets in those environments.
So, but that was the first roll, and most people there's a saying I've always heard people say or use of you're either
if you haven't rolled, you will basically.
That's what it is. You either have rolled or you're going to, and so I thought that was it. I'm good. I got my roll out of the way, learned from the thing, and it didn't work. I then rolled the car you went in today. I rolled that at Wellsboro, same race you went to. We just kind of caught I went too fast. I mean, it was totally my fault, but I hit a culvert on the outside that we never saw, ripped the wheel off the car, broke the strut, and just sent us into this weird gyration. I think we did a cartwheel and then like a 1.5 twist at the end, and covered probably 100 feet of distance. We were going pretty quick when we wrecked. So that was the fastest one, but because I had all the safety equipment, all I remember is seeing the ground, like the road that we were just on, out of the front windshield as soon as we hit, and not hearing any noise because we hadn't hit yet. We were just kind of, it bounced us up in the air, and you're just kind of in the air like, yeah, and you're just waiting for it, and then you hear it. There's the crunch.
And actually, to do well in a race, every corner is a little bit sketchy, so you're always close to wrecking. So when you actually wreck, it's just like, fuck, it's happening. Like, that was just too much. Yeah. So it's this painful weight of what I'm going to hit.
Yep.
Yeah. So like when I was asking before about 100%, there's actually probably like race speed is like 110. You're living in the red, like in the danger zone right there where it's...
To do well, you live in... And then I think the class that John runs, I used to run in, and you have to carry momentum, and it's a really good learning class. And since my new car is a turbo car, and it's so much easier because if I judge something or don't know what to do, I can just slow down. And then I can speed back up.
Yeah.
And I can take the corner as fast as he can, or faster, because I can slow down and get the speed back. But in the open light car, the non-turbo, you can't slow down. So you're just pushing it.
That analogy,
and you learn so much from it. Yeah. That you're just like, there's a lot of hope it works. And we share a co-driver.
Is that Jared?
Jared Lancey, a good friend of ours, and Jared started with me co-driving. And we've come up together and have done well. He's an amazing co-driver, but he stops reading when he's scared. So that's his tell of like, you're taking a corner, you're like, keep reading.
Yeah.
You're going to make it. Have confidence. But it's...
Are co-drivers like, could they be good drivers? Could it like swap in and out? Or
actually, I've done both. And have done well in both sides of the car. And it totally helps because you see it, like you get to experience the situations. Like I just did a race with John. I co-drove for him because Jared wasn't available, and I was like, I'll go. Done it before, and you can apply your knowledge, but you can also do it the other way. And I've always driven before I co-drove, but doing both, it helps. And then it's just experience.
And both of our Jared, who rides with both of us, and even Adam Kimmett is my other co-driver. They're very fast drivers. Like they'll do rallycross, and we all came up through rallycross. So Jared was someone that we were racing with, and all of a sudden it was like, well, do you want to do this? And he ended up signing up for the funny seat, and he's been in it for a while. And Adam, who's he's not new anymore. He's a vet. He's done it a few years now. They're both really fast drivers and very good navigators, but they, that counts because they're not supposed to look at the road, but if they do it, it helps them. I think even with the speed of it, if they're used to going fast, then they don't get scared, or they don't look up and see something and be like, oh, well, what's going to happen? Like they know what they would do. So I think they can handle it or process it better than
you're listening to their tone.
The way they say
you're
picking up on the subtleties.
It's literally,
wow.
Yeah.
And another Jared tale is that if he'll tighten his belts and kind of sit back in the seat, and he'll read faster. And if you're doing that, you're like, okay, I'm going as fast as I should be. I'm going fast.
So it's so much more than
I know. Like and I do it too. Like when I co-drive, when you're like, oh shit, this is getting serious. I'm gonna like get in the right position to crash and tighten up. And
that's what.
You're like, okay, we're doing well. Like.
So what's a good position to crash in? Like, did you change? Because I was sitting.
No, never. No positions really.
Yeah.
No, you just kind of your knees up a little bit, kind of go to fetal, like you sit with your knees closer to your chest.
Bring yourself in, compact.
And that's you hug.
Keep your arms in so they don't go out the window. But I still don't think you want to stiffen up. Like try to you're dealing with like milliseconds. But I think if you could stay loose. If you could do it drunk, you'd probably be okay. Just flail through it and not get hurt at all. But I think if you could keep your appendages in so nothing's going out the window, that's my biggest fear. I don't want to, have somebody's arm go out the window and then be on the outside of the car and get crushed by the weight of the car. Like, I think that would just be an ugly thing to witness. But our guys are good, and the fact that they're good allows us to go fast because, like you said, you build that confidence. And riding with him was fun because we have known each other so long, and he, not burst in your bubble, but you're a better driver than co-driver. And again, that's compared to Jared and Adam, just because they put in just as much work. Like, they're super serious, and not that you're not, but like I said,
they're more serious than
they definitely take it serious and are used to it. They've done it. He doesn't have the practice that they do. So he would be good, but then...
Plus, you guys have this history with each other in so many other environments that how could you spend that much time together and not get a jab or something in at some point, or try to make one another laugh or something?
But I know that he's not going to put me in trouble. I'm not going to get him. So there's that like unspoken trust. You know that like he's not going to tell me something dumb to wreck us because he doesn't want to wreck either. Yeah. And at the same time, I'm not going to overdrive something if I don't know what it is, because you know what I mean. I don't want to hurt anybody. Like, that's my biggest fear. I wouldn't want to hurt someone riding with me, because that would I'd be done. That'd be the retirement for sure.
You were saying that it's not the co-driver's job to see. If I remember, some cars, that passenger seat was actually lower, thinking like, it's going to lower the center of gravity, and we don't need to give them visual. Have you done that in your car? Or?
Mine's as low as it'll go. It has to be low because both the guys are tall too. Those guys are both 6-footers, and so I've got to lower it and get it as far back as I can for them, just so they're not all scrunched up in the car. But it's lower center of gravity for one, but also just they don't need to really.
Actually, when you're going fast, you can't.
You have to feel.
You don't have time. You can't look up.
You feel you felt the seats, like you can feel left or right, which way you're sliding, or if there's a jump, and you just read it, so you should know.
The race I did with John was a snow event, and it wasn't as sliding as much, and that maybe sounded odd, but just the way the corners were, I couldn't feel it, so I got lost. And I didn't have that practice of like knowing. So you're like, okay, that was that turn and now it's this turn. Because you're reading a turn or two ahead all the time, depending on your pace and how you're clicking. So I got lost a bunch. It was just like, and it was fine. It was, we could joke and but it's but there's been stages with Jared. I always say this, like, I'll tell him I'm on the notes, which means if you say go left. Right, because we're 100 miles an hour, the lights are pointing in some random direction, and if you say go left 6, so turns are 1 to 6.
Those and words then you
are plus and minuses.
Yeah,
1 being the tightest, and 6 you don't let off the gas. So we're going that way that you told me as fast as we can go, and we're trying to win the race. Yeah, and if it was right, we're going into the woods at 100 some miles an hour.
Well, even on the 50% ride that we did, or 25% or whatever it was, at some point I was thinking, you're seeing more than I am. Like, you're seeing around the corner, or you're looking to a better spot than where I'm looking. Yeah, for the confidence level of what the car was driving.
Right.
Yeah. But now, I wasn't giving you those instructions either.
Yeah. No, it was that's a fun little road, and I haven't driven that for a long time, so it's not like it's I know these. I'm just gonna be confident and know the road. Like, we kind of just did our test run, and then
first moved to Ligonier. That road's right by my house, as you know, and it was perfectly graded. And I think they just put gravel down, and they also just paved that road that I live on. So I was like, this is amazing. And however many years since, it's kind of gone to shit. But that's why I was curious. It's like, John said the road was good, so we can go run it.
It was really washed out. It was really good. So we're sitting in your garage, and there's like, I don't know, I'm going to conservatively say 10 projects that I could see in one way or another, car parts wise. How many
projects?
Yeah.
I should put you guys to work with all you guys here. There's a lot.
I should say I'm here because I came to steal car parts.
Oh, he was shopping while you were.
You've been giving away car parts. You gave Nate car parts.
Right, I did. I need to.
That's how I ended up.
I need to let go. Less hoarding, more giving.
How many things have you? I don't even know the right way to quantify this question. I guess how many engines have you gone through? Maybe.
This year, none. The last year I went through 3 of them, 2 of them in 24 hours, and then the third one just because I had to replace one of the ones I borrowed. So that was and I've probably gone through 1 or 2 in addition to those ones, but last year was a bad year for engines for me. 2 broken on stage, and then like I said, I had to replace one that I borrowed, and so I had to repay my debt. So I lost a 3rd engine that way. But there again, this is not. You saw my car. This isn't some like high roller thing. They're junkyard engines. I may have bought the whole car for a few $100s, pulled the engine out, freshened it up a bit, put it into the rally car. So it's not something that I've got a ton of money invested into, and I'm not just laughing like, oh, I blew another $5,000 engine. Now we're talking few $100 engines, so it's not as painful to lose something like that. It sucks. It's more of the workload that you have, and just the making your crew go through changing that stuff is kind of the part that stinks. And you miss out on rallies. I mean, I did it on the first stage of Wellsboro, so then I just had to sit there and watch all the cars go past me, and then come back again before we can pull the car out of the woods. And that just sucks because you're missing out on the fun of it, and then that you've got a long night ahead of you to get the car running again. So it's that part's that's the dark side of everything.
We did a podcast with Pierre Wickberg, and he's done a lot of work with Ken Block.
Yep.
And I expected him to be like able to tell me like all the details about Ken's car and everything, and he's like, oh man, I don't even really like cars that much. I like what they're doing.
Right.
I get what they're doing. So I was expecting to get all the intel and all the details of how, not how much money, but how much technology is behind his car and everything. And he's like, I don't know. I don't know anything about cars. And he's like in the heart of it. And I think from an art form perspective, he does a good job of capturing it, but it's just not the thing that he's excited about. So it's interesting that you could potentially be competitive, or at least in the same ballpark, with someone with an unlimited budget for their car. But on a junkyard budget, sort of. Right, and that's kind of the nice
to a certain level.
Yeah, to a certain level.
Not to a Ken level, but you can be. Yeah. That's the beauty of like the non-turbo car. Like John beats dudes in turbo cars, and actually, so we've done well in that car as well. When I got my turbo car, it's almost like, how the fuck do we beat these people? How are they not crushing us in this car? It's so much faster. It's so much easier to drive than to drive this car fast.
But then to take a Ken or like David Higgins, who's the current champion for Rally America, I mean, those guys are just beating. They're beating us by
but
minutes.
It's their job.
Right.
That's their profession, and I think that's when you watch someone do something every day and practice at it. That's how you get good at it.
Right.
And it's not that's what you do. That's your living.
Yeah.
So you take it to another level.
Yep. And they should be good, and I'm psyched that they're good. Like I don't go to a race thinking like, oh, I'm going to beat them this weekend, or I hope something bad happens so I can say I beat them. Like, no, I want them to go super fast, and I want to eventually see a video clip of it of them doing something crazy, because I'm in awe of kind of the power and the technology of those cars and what they can do. Ours, it's more of like, let's see how far up to the top of the heap we can get. If we're is it 6th on the road? Is it 10th? Like, who knows? But, let's try. And there's definitely some weird looks. I mean, my car's not the prettiest car. It actually looks better because I did some body work. But when it has, like, dents, and I usually don't end up washing it because I don't have time before an event, and you'll see some factory team that I might be have a higher speed factor, so I'm starting in front of them, and they're looking like, oh, hey, buddy, you're in the wrong place. Like,
it's rallies run by volunteers, and it's like, I think it's happened where you're like, yo, you need to get back there, and you're like, no, I'm out in front of this guy.
Right.
Like, I'm before him. You're like, oh, shit, sorry.
Yeah, and it's not like all the cars are running at once. It's because there's how long in between each start?
Yeah, you're a minute apart, and what they do is they kind of keep track of your speed, because you don't want, if you're a minute apart and the guy behind you is coming in 2 seconds after you to control, he's obviously catching you. But if you're staying, relatively that minute spread is still staying there, then you're in the right order. The problem is, snowdrift, for example, and it's as bad as it is to get stuck in the snow and be cold and digging and all the stuff. The cool thing about getting put back in the pack is now you went from being 20th or 15th on the road to being 60th on the road, and there might be a brand new guy who's car number 59 in front of you, and they're not going fast, and they haven't found their speed yet, and you end up catching them on stage, And
that's some of the most fun.
That's what I'm saying. That is the most fun because then you're just like, whoa, and you kind of catch them, and usually they'll let you pass, or sometimes they won't, and you're about to bumper tap them, but it's just part of.
You don't usually see cars, so it's just this wild experience where you're like, oh, there's a car, or somebody's catching me. I bought an old Volvo, like an '82 Volvo rally car, and we did a snow event, and I think in that race, John. I did it in twice. I got twice the value out of that race because I got stuck a bunch. John did it in half the time that I did, but I spent a lot of time stuck. And I just never had that experience. So all of a sudden, there's cars around, and you're just like, oh shit! Like you're catching and passing and pulling people out. It's super fun. It's like a more communal, maybe.
Is there official etiquette around that? If somebody catches you, should you let them by?
Yeah, you definitely should, because they're obviously, you're either having a mechanical issue, which is why they're catching you. And anytime I have, like, I remember we popped a tire at this year at Wellsboro Winter. About 2 miles in, I lost the front right tire. And I don't know if you've ever had a front tire pop on a car, but it's hard to steer. It's hard to do anything. We still won the stage. And we had to drive, I think, 6 miles on that tire.
Did you have rubber left? I mean,
no.
Okay.
No. I mean, I'll find the rim and show you. I don't know if it's in here, but it's
racing
destroyed.
on a rim?
Rim with like a tie wrapped. So it was like, I remember this toy as a kid where like this car was like motorized and a claw would come out every once in a while and grab. And that's what reminded me of that. It would like, the tire, you'd like be riding on the rim and then all of a sudden the tire would like grab traction.
And it was
like,
on my side,
stuff,
so it didn't turn real well. So
but you're just hearing and feeling this horrible noise, and but we just kept it pinned and kept going with it. But it's part of the adventure. Like this stinks, and the whole time I'm looking in my mirrors, expecting to get past because I didn't think we were on pace. I thought for sure someone would catch me, and I wanted to get over for them. I don't want to screw up somebody else's deal.
Yeah.
And we didn't get caught, which was cool.
So one cool thing I've noticed about rally cars, kind of when one of my first real introductions was watching the X Games in Kim Block, and that was like, I kind of knew what a rally car was, but then this is, and watching them jump and catch air,
right?
Like, well, this isn't NASCAR or Grand Prix, like, this is how are the cars jumping, and like how does that work in a car? Like, is there a technique to it? Like,
the jumping part's easy. It's
don't
landing. Don't
go fast.
That's probably a technique.
Better to go long
wide
than short.
open.
It's snowboarding. Go better.
Overshoot.
I'd rather overshoot than
go
under.
And anybody can hit a kicker
back.
snowboarding. Anybody. Like if you give them the right amount of speed, like they can hit it. They're not necessarily going to land, and they're not necessarily going to have knees when they land, depending on where they land. And that's how a car is. Like you can send it, but if you don't land in the transition, or if you have hot garbage for suspension, which I had for a long time, like you're going to destroy the car on impact. And I mean, you can put your whole strut tower of your car can fold. Like I've seen cars do that. Where
we actually do a race where there's a really big jump and everybody tries to be the hero. Yeah. And it's like, you're going to land in the pocket. You're going to land in the worst spot.
Hole.
Yeah.
And dudes don't see it. They can't acknowledge it's like, I'm going to be the hero because there's people here with cameras.
Then we'll get the shot.
Like, oh yeah. But
your race is over.
A dude we know messed his car up and broke a vertebrae. But he got the shot. So
Facebook profile pic updated.
Yeah, actually probably was.
It was a good photo. It really was.
No, and I think it was his Facebook profile photo for a long time.
But yeah, that's the hard part, is landing or having the right gear. Where those cars, the X Games cars, obviously they've got good suspension. They've got a lot more travel, so they can suck it up and land. And those guys not feel it, or the car not feel it even better, so that it can keep going.
Or you don't bounce.
Yeah.
Why do you have camo on your car?
I'm a redneck. I don't know. That's the real reason for that particular hood is it was a carbon fiber hood that I basically got for nothing because it was sun faded and had some like.
I think it's been in every roll.
It has. It's survived 3 rolls, so it's like it's an unlucky hood. I keep it around, but
it's done.
Yeah, some kid was like, "Oh, yeah, I don't want this. It needs resprayed or whatever." And I'm like, I could care less. I don't even want anybody to know it's carbon fiber. I just want the fact that it's 30 pounds lighter than my hood, and so I wanted something to do. I was going to paint it, and then I don't know. The stick and leaf camo kind of spoke to me.
Is that like a pound of vinyl or paint or something, you think?
I don't know. I don't know what it weighs, but it's worth it. It's worth whatever weight penalty for that.
I had no clue it was carbon fiber. No clue. You got me fooled. I'm not a car guy, but but that transfers over to your style on snow too. You've worn camo for the past several years.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I stopped getting boxes of stuff, so I've had the same coat for I think 4 years now.
Like Mossio or whatever.
Yeah, Mossio.
You have to go to Dick's Sporting Goods to get your gear.
Looking for a good snow jacket.
Yeah. What do you got? So, but yeah, I don't know. That's this area. I mean, I think it's just being honest about where you're from and how you came up. I mean, I'm not a hunter, but like I said, I hunted growing up as a kid. Like everybody around here, recognizes and knows what it is. Where carbon fiber is just not my deal. I don't have a fancy car that's carbon that I would have a nice shiny carbon fiber anything. I like the advantage of it, but I think I'd still, even if I had a nice car, I'd probably paint the color. So it was just like undercover. I wouldn't want to like flaunt like here's my carbon fiber. I'd rather people think that my car's a turd and then beat them with it so they feel really bad. Like not only did you beat me, but your car looks terrible. So that's part of the fun.
The truth comes out. You're just an asshole.
I really
making people feel bad.
I really am.
But you don't have to use any words to
I don't just want to beat you. I want to beat you and make you feel
hurts deeper.
Yeah, it's that's like man ego. Like you didn't have to say anything. It's just the situation.
Right.
You hurt my feelings.
I got beat by that piece of shit.
So you've gone through so many engines. How long does it take you to swap an engine on that thing? If you're doing it by yourself?
By myself. I mean, I wouldn't be trying to set a speed record. I'd probably take a few days to do it, but I could do it in a few hours. It wouldn't take that long.
Taking the broken one out.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do it in the same day. We have done it in the same day.
Probably 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours.
And I think people could probably kill that time.
Oh, yeah.
But I went and helped John at the Wellsboro race, and so we watched him come by, and it's like, fuck, he blew his motor up. So we knew. So we went.
I still kept going. Like the engine, I only had like a cylinder and a half at that point.
We couldn't get him to fix the car, but we wanted to fix it overnight. So we went to a friend's shop, pulled an engine out of someone else's car, had it ready, and then we got the car back to the shop, pulled that engine, put the other engine in.
I think for all athletics, that's what they say you should do the night before, right? And stay up all night.
High stress.
And do
stay up late.
But
I think I should drink Coors Light.
Yeah.
We're doing it right then.
That's the crappy reality of rally too for me, because I'm so exhausted normally by the time I get to a rally because I've spent the previous week or two trying to prep the car, and it takes every ounce of time and energy to get it on the trailer to even get there. And then now you have to, the easy part for me is racing, because I'm there. All I'm doing is holding on the steering wheel and maybe shifting gears once in a while. Where I was, replacing a windshield or welding on a roof or doing something crazy 3 days prior just to get it there. And so the racing's like, oh, this is my vacation. This is what I paid for. This is what all the work was worth. And so when you miss any of that, you get bummed, because that's.
But it's also it's chess. You have to maintain your excitement level. You can't be super bummed. You can't be super excited. And it's over a 2-day period. So this really weird adrenaline withdrawal when you're done.
Yeah.
That you just crash. Because you're trying to stay up, but not too far down. And like John said, we're not usually good at prepping. So you have to do it rushed right before the event.
There's just always more than you plan. You think that everything's good, car's ready to go on the trailer, and then as you're pulling it out, you find something else, and it's easier to fix here than it would be in the gravel up there. So you're like, I'll just fix this and then I'll leave, and that's where I get in trouble.
And we've had some good people help us along the way that fixed it in the parking lot. So thank you to all those dudes.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the shop in Wellsboro. Our buddy Brandon owns All Wheels Driven, and that's not only Brandon, but his buddy Mark has helped me. I was telling you earlier how he gave me the door off of his car one time to his daily driver car just to finish the second day. And then last year, or the last time we blew an engine, he let us, that was the engine they pulled out of a hot car. He came from the spectator area, parked, these guys ripped his engine out of his car that he couldn't drive home that night, and put it into my race car. So
this is his dude's daily driver. This is what he drives.
Daily car.
And that's what's cool. Rally, a lot like snowboarding, a lot of our friends, like a lot of my friends, came from snowboarding. That's how you meet them, and now we have these really good friends in rally. And this dude Brandon couldn't be any cooler.
Yeah.
couldn't like literally couldn't be any cooler.
And he'll laugh when Jason said we do the engine in 3 hours because we,
he would probably do it in an hour and a half.
He wanted to go to bed and he was basically like, guys, get out of the way, push us out of the way. His dudes came in and they just like, boom, like
I think
popped
2
this thing
dudes
in.
lifted it into the car.
They did. They had no engine
like
voice, like one on each side,
quit
and they just
messing around, like
slammed it into the car. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. So
Well, those times for someone who's not in the car world, you think about it, someone who just doesn't even know what's going on under the hood, like 3 hours, that sounds amazing. Because if you go to the mechanic, they're going to quote you this huge,
I mean, just
whatever's on their book.
Yeah,
it's going to be,
go see Brandon at Always Driven.
Yeah.
And that's something that,
PA, and
he can
he'll
rip
get
it
you
out
done
in
in
an
an
hour.
hour and a half.
yeah, right.
He's got 2 dudes
Fair
lifted out of
rates,
there.
brand new building. Yeah, he'll call him the crew.
so maybe
This episode is brought to you by.
It should be. Can we co-sponsor this?
maybe to kind of put a pin on this end of the conversation, share a little bit about what you're doing for work now.
I'm actually out, dude.
All right,
You're out here.
Oh, yeah. Head out, Jay.
CJ.
Jay Smith, good times, brother. Thank you.
Jay, pleasure seeing you.
I'll try not to trash talk you.
Well, now that he's gone,
Yeah.
let me tell you
I'm
about
going to tell
the
you
time
something I don't like about Jay
told me
Smith.
We don't have to be nice anymore. Getting the hot
Make a little adjustments.
just be careful with putting your feet on the table because every time
And I'll
you
stand
were,
here.
or it's every time that somebody does,
Just make yourself
yourself
comfortable
on the
wherever you're most comfortable.
I felt low. My shoulder felt low. What were we?
what do you do at Hoonigan?
Oh, so yeah, Hoonigan's one of my jobs. But yeah, so Hoonigan is the biggest part of my day job. I handle all their international sales and some key account stuff for them. So they, the perception's bigger than reality, and it's a pretty small company as far as the amount of people involved at the company, which is cool. I mean, you know everybody absolutely on a first name basis. Even though I'm satellite and I'm here in Pennsylvania, like I said, stay in touch with those guys, and I'm basically selling all the new stuff, whatever new clothing, hats, all that stuff that comes out. I kind of present it to our main accounts and all of our international business, and either try to pioneer that business and add some new accounts, or just make sure everybody's locked in. I mean, with Ken Racing in Europe, we've got a huge, we've got different vendors that sell right on site, so we got to make sure they're locked and loaded for each weekend that he's racing there, and just make sure that the brand awareness is there, and that the product's in the right retailers. So.
What is the inspiration for that company? Because they kind of came up really quickly. I felt like I went from never having heard of it before to then just every 20-year-old male that was into cars having a Hoonigan shirt.
Right. It's funny, and I can't speak for Ken or Brian who started the company, but what my perception of it, or what I've seen, they just it started as kind of a joke and kind of Ken's rally program or racing program. So there's Hoonigan Racing Division, which you'll see on a lot of Ken's product and on his car, and that's kind of his race team. He's got a whole crew of dudes that travel around, and whether they're mechanics, his crew, or spotters for him, they're all under his kind of racing umbrella. And then I think from what I understand from those guys, they had to protect the trademark because there was people starting to they wanted it and it was getting in demand, and people were starting to bootleg stickers.
Bootleg Hoonigan.
Yeah, so they had to produce product just to kind of protect the name and make sure it didn't get stolen out from under them. And
Talk about a good validation of a business idea.
Absolutely.
You're not even trying to do this.
Yeah. And so they
have
were
quality stuff too, some bootleg shitty thing.
There's a lot of as far as the die cuts, there's a lot. Anybody with a plotter tries to do these weird knockoff Hoonigan stickers, but anyway, they realized there was something there and just kind of made an investment and made more of a company out of it. And it was going on for a few years as an e-com business and just kind of their own deal before I got involved. They kind of decided they wanted to make the jump into retail business. And I had, experience coming from working for DC and I've been in retail most of my life. And, the fact that I'm in retail, I race cars, and I, kind of like the brand and already know about it. It made a lot of sense, and it really connected with me when I met those guys and saw, not only were they were car guys first and foremost. Like they were working on, if you need to go because you're in Long Beach, but if you go to the Donut Garage, you'll see, those guys on our lunch break, like working on their own cars. They've all got some, whether it's a good project or just some ratty project, they've all got like project vehicles that they're doing and, either racing or just working on and fixing every weekend. So they're into it. There's nothing fake. It's not like they're just, driving some leased cars and then, let's make some automotive apparel because, we think we can make money off of it.
Right. I love seeing that, like any industry where the people that are working in that industry are also like involved and are fans and are like excited about it.
It's rare.
Yeah, and it feels weird to me, like, oh, you don't, like, if someone works in skateboarding, I don't skate. Like, have you ever skated? No, not really. It's like, why are you here? Like,
we could have a skateboarder in your job.
Yeah,
someone who would just be like so psyched.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah.
So that's awesome.
I got addicted to this game on my iPhone, and I'm scared to even go through the thought of it now. I had to move it. I had to move it like way to the back of my app so I don't see it anymore. But Need for Speed, it's like a car racing game.
Yeah.
And one of the things when they have special events every couple months or so, is you can get a Hoonicorn.
Oh, nice.
That's the name of the car.
Yeah.
You heard of that
car?
What's that?
Yeah, that's Ken's Mustang. I think it's a 65 Mustang, and it's crazy. I spent time with it because we did Agenda Vegas. We did the show there, and we had the Hoonicorn parked there in our booth.
So I didn't even know it was a real car.
Yeah, it's a real car. So the reason it's the word hoonigan and unicorn kind of combined is it's a one of a kind. It's an all-wheel drive Mustang. So it's an all-wheel drive, just crazy, normally aspirated, 800 some crazy horsepower Mustang. And it's the old chassis, so it's the look of a 65, but just on steroids, like a lot meaner, more aggressive look. And then it has the power to back it up. And I don't know of any other all-wheel drive Mustang, let alone one that's on that level of power. But that's so the Gymkhana series of videos, that would have been the car for Gymkhana 7. If you've checked it out, or if you want to, you can see that car in action. And then there's a new project coming up that I can't talk about at all, but it'll have that car sometime in the immediate or distant future. I can't talk about it though.
Okay. So you jump the Grand Canyon.
He might. I don't know. They won't even tell me.
Out of it.
Maybe.
Link up to a helicopter, picks him up higher.
Yeah. The Hoonicorn's cool. But actually, my favorite car in that stable, like Ken's group, I don't know. They're all pretty. They all each hold their own. But I love the Escort. He's got the old. It's like I think a 71 Escort. That's it's all motor and just all blacked out with just the American flag hood, and just a mean little car. Just the size of it, the dimensions, everything about it. It's real boxy and angular, kind of like what you would have said Malcolm would enjoy watching. So that is the car that people still rally. It's the cult favorite, like in the Irish rallies and through the UK. Like that's the car. It's the vintage rear-wheel drive car that you want to.
It was always so funny for me to have Malcolm see some like old grandma driving like an Escort or some car like that, and him just be like nerding out on how cool it was. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you seeing the same car that I'm seeing? There's no way that was ever going to be a cool car. But he just saw something that I wasn't capable of seeing.
Right? No, that's for sure. Yeah, and it definitely isn't your grandma's Escort. It's a rear-wheel drive, which is a big difference from most of the U.S. Escorts here. And then obviously that one's tuned up a bit, so it's pretty fun.
So AJ introduced me to another guy who does a lot of interviews, and his name is Nardwar.
Nardwar, the human serviette.
Human serviette.
Yeah.
One thing he always does is bring like a gift to his guests, and I'll hand this over to AJ there.
So this is actually, I think you posted this on your Instagram.
Yeah.
This photo.
Yep.
What can you tell us about that photo?
So. Yeah, my buddy Doug. Well, Doug Prudian shot this photo. So this is me at Killington. It was when they first put in the gondola, and it went right over the half pipe. And so the fantasy was to like hit this gondola car as this thing's moving, or whatever it would be, just because it's it had to be probably 20 feet off the deck, to be completely honest. It was pretty unreachable, but it was a target. So it was something that, would be amazing if you could do it. So that was, we just, I don't know, set up camp. I spent a lot of time in Killington because it was before, Seven Springs is amazing now, but, back in this time period, there was Killington had the half pipe. If you wanted to ride a park or half pipe stuff, they kind of committed to it and had the right weather that they could keep it the whole year, and they had a pretty good setup. So we'd sleep in our cars and go ride up there. But yeah, this was and I even had a Pit Crew sweatshirt on for the for the shot. But that was that's good times right there.
What year is that?
This is
what month and year?
October '98.
Wow.
So this is and this would have been Generics. So Generics was probably not in business much longer than this magazine, because it was only probably from '96 to '98 or '99. But that was the good old days with those dudes.
That was probably right around the first time that I met you at the shop once or twice.
Nice.
You pop in somewhere 99 right in there.
Yeah.
There was a story about one of your other sponsors that you parted ways with, and a payment discrepancy that you rectified in what I thought was a pretty interesting way at the time. This is pre-internet, so we won't say who it was unless you want to.
Uvex? Was it?
No. It was I think I know what you're talking about, because it was a pretty serious one. Like it was a good chunk of money. Unless you may be talking about something else that I'm not. You might have to clue me in more. But
I don't know.
The one I'm thinking about is
Shine like a rock.
Is there was a weird falling out of the company, and they just owed me all this photo incentive money. There was a whole. I'd already done all the work and got all the shots, and that most of your contracts, the old snowboard contracts then. You weren't making a ton of money, but you could make some decent money on incentives, whether it was photos, video per second, TV, whatever it was, and they had racked up a pretty good total. So I had to do I think that I just had to do a bluff with an attorney and had to have a letter sent is all I had to do for that one. You might be talking about something.
No, that's exactly it.
Okay, yeah.
You bluffed as an attorney?
I did and I didn't. I had a friend help me who was actually an attorney.
Okay.
And I think she did it with a letterhead and made it kind of official as like an inquiry. And I'd been trying to call and get it taken care of. Like I didn't want to sue anybody. I wasn't trying to do that. I just was like, man, like this is my, this is the money that I'm going to snowboard with the next few months or do whatever with. And it was important to me. And the guy wouldn't call me back. And sure enough, as soon as he got the letter, we're buddies again. He's calling me, hey, let's take care of this. So yeah.
Make sure this doesn't go any farther.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mess around with that stuff. I mean, they committed to the contract. I fulfilled my part. I mean, pay up. You know what I mean? It'd be different if I was just
I need my money. That's what I like to hear. I need my money. Pay up.
Like, and you're the one breaching the contract. You're the one ending it early or whatever you need to do. I understand if you need to make your corporate change. Like, I get it. It's business. But at the same time, like, when we made our agreement, this is what we agreed on. My part's done. Box is checked. Like, it's time to pay up.
That story has always stuck with me because there's so many other people's stories where, oh, that company sucks.
Yeah.
I didn't get paid.
Yep.
And you just wonder, like, how much did they push the issue?
Yeah.
And then there's the unfortunate thing, like you said, like, I don't want to sue.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to.
No.
For the most part in our industry, I don't think that's in our core to go through that system.
Right.
But you came up with a creative way to kind of toe the line,
right?
I
was too cheap to like actually hire an attorney, so I couldn't sue. I was just kind of like, you know what? Like, what do I do? And I had some good advice from a friend, and like you said, she was like, hey, my friend works for so and so. Like, let's see if it does anything, and it at least got the conversation. Like, they never had to pursue it or do anything other than getting the attention of having it on a legal letterhead. That's really all it came down to. But I just thought that was lame because I'd been with that company for a few years and I had a great time. Like, I don't regret any of it, but the fact that, when it came time, they just wouldn't take care of their part of the deal. And there were other guys on there as well that still probably never collected or never was able to get what they deserved out of it. And it's a shame, but I definitely got mine.
Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
Or water with fire even.
Yeah. Oh my God. I like that analogy a lot. I love it. Sounds awesome.
What is your theory on board tuning, and like how frequently do you wax your board?
The 16-year-old version of me would hate me, but because back then I would have just rode aboard the whole year and kept it running and do the whole deal. But I definitely don't like to tune boards. I don't know when it started, but at some point I was just didn't want to do it. And there were for multiple reasons. One is just that I just get super mental about the setup. And if I change it, I'm worried that it's going to screw something up. It's like a superstition almost. So
I understand that.
I almost want to keep the same board. I don't, if it breaks or something goes wrong that I don't want to use it, that's fine. But I don't want to even sharpen the edges or change anything about it because I'm used to the way it rides. And I think I stopped doing it because there had been situations where, okay, somebody would wax my board, I'd wax my board and do all that stuff. Next day we'd hit something and I'd overshoot it because I'm not used to the speed or I'm not used to whatever, the board isn't the same that it was yesterday. And I kind of gave up on it. And I love a freshly tuned board. I still have to like tear off most of the edges, and go. But as far as the wax and the base, there's nothing better than a brand new out of the package board. Mm. So I was lucky, had some, well, Jay worked at Rome forever. So I definitely had a good run where I seemed to be getting boards more often than I needed them. And I keep it. There's probably a few over there. I actually found one in plastic last year that I didn't know, but it's like 3 years old. But I popped it open. I'm like, a brand new board, and got to ride it. So, that I'd rather pull it out of plastic and have a brand new one and defile it than try to wax and change whatever my setup is. But I can do it. I'm capable of doing it. I've waxed plenty of boards. I mean, you and I both worked at shops, so you put in your time, but
millions.
But any more, I don't. There's no real reason.
Whatever you're doing is working because...
Well, the basers are good now, too.
Well,
it's not garbage. It's really high-end stuff that it's fast all the time. You don't need to, you look at a thermometer to pick your wax and, put something fancy on there. Like a regular base, as long as it's not dry or damaged, it's going to go, pretty good.
Paul and I are competing against each other to have the fastest board.
Yeah.
There's this long flat section at the top of springs to get to the pipe you have to go through. And, he's usually winning.
Right.
Some of it's just he's a better... maybe a little more weight. Some of it's he's probably just a better snowboarder than me. I mean, he's making little micro adjustments and holding speed on ridiculous little things that most people don't even see.
Right.
But we're always competing and finding the secret formula. And if I'm faster than him one day, then you can bet that he's going to figure something out and be faster the next day.
Yeah.
But we'll both come competing against each other, and then you'll show up with a 2-year-old board that hasn't been waxed ever and roll right by us.
Right.
And that's humbling.
Somehow. How is he going faster? His hands are on the ground.
And it backfires. By the end of the season, it's usually pretty terrible. Mm-hmm. And if I get bummed on those nights. My favorite days to ride when it's 50 and sunny, and guys will blow right past me because I have that beat up board at the end of its life, and that's it. There's no way that I can keep the speed up. But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that I can at least keep up with you guys without the wax.
So I started to really get to know you more when your snowboarding career out west had migrated here.
Yep.
And one of the things you were doing at the time for income was flipping cars.
Yeah.
How did that even start? I just remember you saying something about, you can sell so many cars a year legally in your front lawn or something.
Yeah, that takes a full redneck level.
You use a car a lot in the front,
Yeah, it's 6 cars a year, actually. And that's a Pennsylvania law. You can only sell 6 cars a year before. And again, I've never been... I think I overshot it a year, by a car, and 1 year, and I never got anything, but that's always the threat. And I've read the rule. It says that if you're selling more than that, they want you to be a dealer because they want you to be paying sales tax and all that good stuff to go along with it. And I'm not trying to cheat anybody out of taxes. I wouldn't always sell that many cars, but again, it's just that car fascination. I've always liked them, and I've always wanted a lot of different cars, but couldn't really justify owning them for any long time. And I think what really got me into that was my girlfriend at the time, but my wife Susie. She lived in Baltimore, and Baltimore had an abandoned vehicle auction, and it was crazy. It was a different experience than I don't think anybody can imagine. I mean, if you can imagine, the cast of The Wire at a car auction. Like that's pretty much what we were dealing with. It was like heavy. Like you would go there and I would hide. I probably shouldn't say it. I mean, if anybody's listening, but I would hide my money in my sock. Always, it could be 95 degrees out and I would have long pants on and I would have, I would know how much money I took to the auction with me because you had to buy the cars cash on the hood. And so I might have like, $1,000 in one sock, $2,000 in the other sock because you didn't want to get caught like pulling a big bankroll out of your pocket or anything, because a lot of the dudes that went to that auction were only there to get in early, break into the cars, steal the change out of the coin drawers, and steal the radios out of the car, and then take off. They wouldn't even stay for the auction. And I would be like, just this random dude from Pennsylvania that showed up there, and a lot of looks of like, what are you doing here? Like, who are you? And but it was crazy. But I would buy, you would get cars for virtually nothing because one, there was no competition because everybody was afraid to go there. Like it was in like it was East Baltimore, and just was not a nice area and nothing. I mean, it was a car pound. You know what I mean? It's just a dirty, nasty, hot place to be, and so people they were going to take off their day job to go there. But I'd be visiting Susie, and she lived down there, so I'm like, oh, I'll go check this out, and I got hooked immediately and started couldn't believe how cheap cars were going, so I started buying them. And
what level of inspection could you do on the car? I mean, could you see if it ran?
No, that's the other reason that they were super cheap is you had no key, no idea, and sometimes you'd have a dude just saying like, this is my car. He basically just like post up on it and just like, don't bid on my car. So you had to,
that car ain't making out there.
Yeah, like big, jack dudes. Like just, I'm not messing with that guy. Like I'm done. And it was mopeds more than anything. That was the hot commodity. Like if it was a Tomos moped, I knew not to bid on it because there were dudes fighting over that stuff. And
I didn't know 12 o'clock boys had mopeds out there.
Yeah, and I would stick to cars, and I was stuck to, Hondas and Subarus were my main deal. If I could find one, that was the deal. The only pre-prep that I could do is I could pull the VIN number off you could see the list, I think, the day ahead of time. So I would do my homework, VIN check everything, and find out what models they were. If there was nothing worth seeing, I wouldn't even go. But, every once in a while there was something good that went in, and you're like, oh, there's an Acura LS or something that's worth going to check out, and then, go there. If you have enough money in your sock, you walk away with a car or two, and then you got to figure out how to get it home because there's no keys. I didn't even have a tow any way to tow, like even a trailer back then, and just had to figure out how to like logistically get the car out of there and back to Pennsylvania.
What would you do?
I just got creative. I bought I flipped enough cars till I could get a truck, like a S10 two-wheel drive truck, and then I would rent tow dollies from the just U-Haul. I'd get a one-way tow dolly and have just drive them home. It'd be a 3.5 hours almost to get it back here, and I'd return the tow dolly up here and have the car and work on it. Or sometimes I'd have a tow driver drive it from the pound to like where my wife was in her apartment complex, and either try to fix it there, and if I couldn't fix it, then I'd have to figure out a way to rent a trailer, borrow something, borrow a truck and get it back. But it was a pretty interesting times, and not that it's changed. I still do the same thing. I've just learned from it, and I'm better at it, and I'm less hands-on. I mean, it's a lot of it's online now, so it's something I'm still fascinated by, and it's always my plan B. I've just never had to use it. So.
Have you ever just been burned on one? Just like bought one and it's just a total like.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had a Blazer, some mid-90s Blazer that had low miles. It looked great. I'm just like, this would be a good. And it was actually, I think, when I was still trying to get a proper tow vehicle, and not that that's even a proper tow vehicle, but at least it was four-wheel drive. Yeah. Seemed like a good. And I always stuck to my Honda Subaru plan, and that was the one time I varied. And I was like, I'll go General Motors. Why not? How bad could it be? And bought this thing, and it just would not run. It had to replace fuel injectors and drop the gas tank, do all this fuel stuff to get it to run, and it was just miserable experience because back then I still didn't know how to really work on cars. I wasn't aspiring to work on cars. It was more of just, I like the easy ones, like get the car, clean it up, do some minor stuff to it and remarket it, where that was a full just losing battle. And even after it was fixed, it's not worth anything. It wasn't something I wanted to keep as a tow vehicle. So I didn't think it was reliable, and so that was a bad one. And then you buy cars that some of the newer stuff I buy now, you just never know. Like, it might say that the car runs. There's one I have at my shop now that it said it ran. I didn't go check it out. I just bought it sight unseen. But when it said it ran, I figured it ran. It did. But unfortunately, it sounds like there's someone in there with a hammer because it knocks so bad. So it's just a dead engine. But I kind of bid accordingly. If I don't go to the auction to see the car in person, hedge my bet, make it low. If the car's worth X amount, I'm cutting that in half, or I'm putting it somewhere that there's a safety margin, that if worst case scenario, there's a dead animal in the trunk, like, I don't get burned. I can walk away or pay someone to clean it. So,
do you think that GM being on Lemon kind of paralleled with your relationship with Jay Smith in some way? Doesn't he have some direct relations with General Motors? Yeah, and that may have been why I wanted that vehicle. So his dad, he was a lifer at General Motors and definitely a GM guy. And so I just assumed that it would be good. And again, you don't know the history of these cars. So those could be great vehicles. But you don't know how that vehicle got in the tow pound. And a lot of times you'd find like the ignition was broken because it was a car that somebody stole, and they drove it till the gas ran out and then pushed it down a hill till it hit something. And so you just have no idea how rough of a life it had. And there's, you can't start it. So it's just unknown. You get a great deal, but there's a lot of question marks, and it's outside of most people's comfort zone. They wouldn't want to, put any money towards something that they couldn't hear run or didn't know about. But I've learned a ton. I know what to look for on a lot of the cars that I regularly do buy. I know where I can get burned. I know I can part out a car in my head, just looking at it. I know what a Subaru parts out at or what parts are worth. And it's a weird thing that I've taught myself just from years of doing it or having to do it. So that's very good skill to have for what you're doing now.
Yeah.
We had some listener questions, and I don't have them teed up, but I'm going to try and pull a couple of them from my memory here. One of them was from a car guy who lives down the street from me. He's a transmission guy, my buddy Dave Thacker.
Yeah.
He wanted to know, he has a company called Thacker's Transmissions, and he wanted to know what you're running as far as clutch and transmission, or what upgrades or changes, if any at all.
I'd like to know what his advice is. I run, it's a pretty stock setup. Again, my car's just down and dirty, and it's my engine and transmission are from like a 2001 Subaru RS, which is a 2.5 liter engine, and the transmission is it's a 411 gearing transmission that came with that model. There's nothing fancy to it. I don't have a fancy diff or anything. It's just a standard transmission that's probably a $500 transmission if you had to replace it at a junkyard. Clutch wise though, I don't run a super aggressive clutch. I just run Exetti makes it's like an organic stage 1 clutch for that car, and that's what I've always ran for for rallycross, and then I ran it for a lot of my stage rallies, and I actually replaced it and put the same clutch in, and the first one still looked fine. So I'm a big fan of that one. It doesn't it'll slip once in a while, pulling the car onto a trailer or something where you are slipping the clutch. Like I'll smell the clutch disc, but it's awesome. I think it's a lot of guys put a really aggressive clutch on their car, and then all of a sudden their gears disappear because they don't have the clutch taking the abuse or the slip. And somebody would probably argue with me, they might be totally right, but if you had a better clutch, it would take more abuse and it could do this and do this, and I'm not opposed to that, but again, it works for me. I'm superstitious to change it, so I don't want to. I've raced with kind of that gearbox setup and that clutch setup since day one, and I'll knock again, but it hasn't let me down. So.
And organic is like the actual material of the clutch plates? Is
that
right?
I don't think it's like pesticide free. I just think it's...
No, right. Yeah. But it's saying it's not like a synthetic material.
Right.
But
it's not carbon. It's just an organic material. So that's I just remember that's the name of the particular one. Because they have you can get a stage 1 clutch, stage 2, a 6-puck. There's all these different clutches, but the organic is kind of where mine is. So.
And then... our mutual friend Paul Horning wanted to know.
So why are you gay?
That's the vice principal's reference. If anyone's seen the new episode, it's hilarious. He wanted to know when is the new Blood, Sweat, and Grease Paint,
the sequel
Part 2 coming out? Which I've only seen twice. It was a VHS that was highly coveted and just like highly revered at the shop at Pickeroo.
That's awesome.
Yeah, maybe I've seen twice.
I'm always blown away when people remember that and are psyched on that movie. I have a couple of VHS. It was only ever launched on VHS, but it's funny because Aaron Hawkins, a good buddy of mine, is very responsible for that film. There were some heavy dudes involved in that. Like this dude Evan Bernard he did kind of the script for it and some of the work with Aaron to get it going. We had a full real camera crew. And the whole thing, it was a full movie shooting as far as what we did in New York for like the acting stuff. I know the acting is pretty subpar, but it's we did it as a real film, which was a new experience for me and kind of a cool thing. But all that said, and to get back to your question for Paul, Aaron does want to remaster it. He wants to, he actually wanted to film like current footage of us. He's sitting on like rolls of 16 millimeter film of us from back in the day, from us going to Japan and all these different trips that we took that he's never even processed. So there's like Colin Lentz, when we were in Japan, he did the first 1080 into powder years before anybody did. I watched it with my own two eyes, and Aaron has this on 16, and it's never
that has
been
to
seen.
Come out. Are you kidding me?
And he did it like it was nothing. It was just like a little bump in the snow, typical Colin, just like and rode away. And
I have to interrupt my only Colin experience. We went down to Massanutten, and I don't even think it was before we started the Pickeroo series down there. And there's rumors of this guy Colin Lentz from this area. He shows up, hasn't snowboarded in years. I think he was a nurse. He was wearing like a long, almost like a trench coat. And I'm not 100% positive that he was even wearing snowboarding boots or that he had his own board, but somebody got him to get on the snow.
Nice.
And he hit this gnarly, you were probably there that day. He hit this gnarly hip thing, and there's debate over what the fuck he did.
Was it Massanutten?
Yeah.
Was it the Southern Exposure or something?
Yeah, it was one of those. Yeah. That's my only experience with him. And
nice.
I don't know if he's ever been on the snow since.
I hate that I haven't talked to him in so long, but the last time I was on snow with him, we went out to New Jersey, and I think it was after that there was a kind of a Pro-Am contest, and he was like, I want to do it. He's like, I still got it. I want to do it. And and he really did, but he may have ridden 2 times before he went to that contest.
Yeah.
And it was a jam session format, or maybe it's 2 runs, whatever it was. And I remember a lot of guys just tripping out on him. Like, Colin had a lot of respect. Like Ross Powers is there, just like, Colin, like, hadn't seen him in 10 years. And it's just like, wow, great to see you. And Seth Neary, all these guys that like, were dudes I looked up to. And they're like fanned out on Colin or giving him respect, which was cool. And he basically, typical Colin, he did a pretty amazing run. Got to the bottom, and I was like, yeah, do it. Like, that's good. And he was like, yeah, let's go. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, that's all I wanted. He's like, I just kind of wanted to catch up with everybody and just, see what the level was at. Like, I'm good. I'm like, but you could probably do well. He's like, no, we're good. And we got in the truck and left. So it was like, I drove all the way to Jersey. He does this, like, this run and, probably bummed people out and just, or got people super psyched, like, wow, it's Colin, and then just like disappeared into the smoke. And that was like that's typical Colin though.
Got the mic.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah. So he, and unfortunately, like I said, I haven't stayed in touch with him in the past few years. I think about him all the time, but just haven't, I got to catch up with him. I heard he's in North Carolina now. I don't know, he was a nurse for a while. I'm assuming he was doing that, but I heard he was doing like some construction and carpentry type stuff now too. So who knows? I got to call him.
And I don't know. I know I interrupted and took us off. Do you remember which direction we were going before that?
I don't know. What were we talking about?
If not, it's
a
okay.
Video about grease paint too.
We covered grease paint. I think I just brought up Colin, and then I think that's probably got sidetracked.
Yeah. So another question from your co-driver.
Yep.
Have you broken more bones or more motors? And we've already covered some of the motors, I think.
It's probably close. Because I don't, again, I'll bet motors, as far as breaking them, not just giving them away to replace ones that I have broken, I'm probably only at 4 in the Subaru. And bones, I broke my collarbone, I broke my wrist, broke my nose. This shoulder didn't officially break, but it's all.
Do you have the bump? Yeah.
Separated and popped out. I tore my collarbone from my sternum, which was a rough one, and I think broke a finger or two. But that's it. I've been so lucky. I'll knock one more time, but I really am glad that I don't have the knee problems that a lot of it's. We're like Vietnam vets now, like dudes that snowboard in the 90s. Like a lot of guys have, poor Jeremy Bay, my buddy in New York, he's just had crazy knees. Like that's what ended his whole deal. And, I've been lucky and haven't had to face a lot of that and, thankful.
Did you ride switch bindings for a while? The knee problems made me think about that. I know Jay.
The step-ins?
Yeah.
With the little metal things on the boots?
Yeah.
I can't say never. I never rode them more than, I believe, one day at Seven Springs Pipe, Jay made me try, we switched boots. There was no easy way to try them. You had to try somebody else's sweaty boot even to get in the thing.
Yeah.
And I think I took a run on his board, which it was so crazy feeling just because not having a high back, and it wasn't my deal. But that was the only experience with that kind of deal. But everybody else did. That was a big Tim and Mal thing. And I know Paul, I think, did you have a pair at one time? No, okay.
I came just after that.
Yeah.
No. Bring back switch.
I think there might be room for it to come. You look at the trends that go on in snowboarding, and if somebody can refine a step in significantly more than what happened 10, 12 years ago, whenever that was, there might be a chance.
I mean, superstition alone, there's no way I'm going to run it. Like, I've run traditional bindings my whole life. Like, there's no way I'm going to make that kind of switch. Like, mentally, I just couldn't handle it.
You're talking to someone who's been riding the same pair of Union Force for 8 years now.
Right? So I'm right with you.
Yeah, I think our bindings are fine for now. I mean, I think a lot of this stuff, it's like so gimmicky and it like kind of doesn't work and end up reverting back to whatever we've had, or making it a little better.
Yeah, stuff could always get more comfortable. Or I want it to get more high tech. Like I hope my kid has some kind of crazy board that flies or something. You know what I mean? There's got to be some next level. It can't just be what we're dealing with now. And the technology's cool. Maybe there's something that you can do more with and have a different type of fun, but still on a board.
I could see the whole boot binding board interface being integrated into one thing.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the connection you have in the car, like you're just right in it. But that's materials and technology above and beyond what I can conceive.
Right. Yeah.
Our buddy Alex Dunn had a question about how do you reach expert class in quotation marks. Is this from riding with him?
Yeah. He's and maybe it's my fault. I think maybe he's making fun of me. Maybe he's not. But I think I always try to like I see people do things and it'll be I'll tell them like, oh, try this or do this. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to like. I know you. I've done it to you.
You've helped me a lot. You've helped me a lot.
Okay, but like I said, I see like just easy. They're not easy mistakes. They're mistakes that and I don't even mean to call them mistakes, but they're just things that you may do or someone may do that if they just tried it this way or could get used to doing it, like it would, get them higher or be able to do this and this. And I've probably done that with Alex as well. Just riding around, dorking around with those dudes, but. I don't know. Expert class. That's a whole nother level.
You and I were talking last night, AJ, about like trick tips and how you can go online and watch a trick tip and see like this whole thing, but it's not really there applicable for the moment you need it.
Yeah.
Advice for the one step you need at the moment you need it, but you have given me and have given to Alex.
Yeah.
That's actionable in real time right there versus, okay, I watched this video on YouTube last night. Let me try and remember that and play the whole thing back in my mind now for the whole trick as opposed to just breaking it down into one thing.
Right.
I think that's better than any trick tip.
Yeah. It's usually simple stuff. It's just a habit that somebody developed, and that's what they do because that's what works. But then, until you try it a different way. And I'm the same superstitious dude doing the same thing over and over again. It's telling people to try something a different way. But I just see little things that help people, and I can't help myself but to say, like, hey, try this, or hey, do it like this. And I don't know. I hope it works. And I'm not trying to be a jerk or like tell people how to do it. It's more of me just wanting to like make it more fun for them.
Very cool. Then last listener question, John Leonard wants to know if you want that pair of socks that he borrowed at STPR back.
I do. I expect those back.
What kind of
socks?
They're probably Element socks from Jay. Jay's got me on the sock flow program. So I probably had a few pair, and I think John came with one pair of socks was his deal, and he was there. Those crew dudes, man, my guys are awesome, but they basically show up and they're there at your mercy for 2 or 3 days. Whether you're breaking the car, they've got to, and I'm there right with them, shoulder to shoulder, fixing it too. But they're not like they miss most of the race because they're stuck working on the car, and they're just like, I'm probably low blood sugar or adrenaline wearing off or both. That I'm just like moody as can be, I'm sure, and I'm just like do this or give it out, let me do that myself, and I shouldn't be, but who knows? And John's rad. He's a good dude, but he just either didn't have socks or was trying to rerun them a few days in a row, and I was like, dude, you need some socks, and gave him. It came free to me, so I passed. I played it forward, gave him the same, or paid it forward. Same socks that Jay had given me, I gave to him. So I hope they're clean. They may not have been clean, John.
You said, they might miss the race because they're working the whole time. But even if you go to one of these races and watch it, you're going to see one cool spot for about maybe 15, 30 seconds, maybe if you've got like a really wide open spot.
Right.
It's not like you're going to a racetrack and you're going to see this whole race. I mean, it's a very different experience, and that's why Jay was talking earlier about the water crossing being a popular spectator spot.
Yeah,
so you're going to see this event again and again. But I went to the one race, and it was different than anything else that I've ever spectated.
Yeah,
you see this little snippet, and it's like, well, that was it. And there's no information, there's no loudspeaker.
Right,
a few folks who might be in the know, but that's really it.
Yeah, no, it's a hard thing to be a spectator. Like there's work involved there, and but the cool thing, I think there's a lot of, maybe it's a hipster thing, but there's a lot of like adventure's cool right now. Adventure seems, and which is awesome. I hope people get outside and do things beyond just working or looking at their phone. But in rallies, that like your phone doesn't work, you're in the woods, so you're already freed of that one, and now you're hiking out at Wellsboro. There's like rattlesnakes, there's ticks, there's like all kinds of things that can
there's
take
one
you out.
Bar.
Yeah, right. But so you got to get in the woods early. You got to be there probably an hour early just to make sure you got your spot, because there's a lot of people that are going to crowd in and get there. And then, like you said, I think 15 seconds, that's probably a lot. Like it's probably shorter than that. But you're just catching a glimpse of 2 seconds, but it's burned into your memory. The blowing brake rotors and just the noises. You can't experience that the same way of just watching on video. And to smell it and see it and experience it
feel it.
Right. That's what got me. That's what got me. I went as a spectator. Like I was a rally fan or spectator way before I started racing, and I just kind of fell into it. Like I never had dreams of being a rally car driver. It's just that I wanted to get closer and closer. The more I experienced, like I kind of want to do this, and. But I think that it's addictive. I hope I didn't send you down the path, and at the same time, I hope I did, AJ. But I know you like it, but it's a rough road, literally and figuratively.
Well, I mean, I'm ready for my life to be ruined.
Good.
A lot of things have ruined my life that I love.
Where he lives with Corbin, they could just get rid of all the motorcycles, and they have the same setup. I mean, they live in a motorcycle garage, basically. Right. They could just turn it into the Long Beach Rally Center.
Yeah.
We could, man.
I like it.
There's so many things that I want to do. I'm getting new things that I'm into. But yeah, it was so fun. It was just so much like, this isn't just sitting, riding in a car or whatever. It's like, just more.
Yeah.
Something so much more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I was never like a racing type dude. I guess Jay and I worked at a go-kart track. That probably, got us interested in the whole, just smelling gas fumes all day, burn enough brain cells that it seemed like a good idea. But there's no coming back from it. It's once you start doing it and see how fun it's mostly worth the effort. I've second thought it a few times, welding the roof on my car a second time after rolling again. Like you really get kind of beat up. But Jay mentioned it. You just got to keep your mental level up.
Yeah,
racing, but then also in between, you've got to have the follow through, the work ethic to get that car to the point where it's reliable to even get it there. And that's a lot of work.
It's interesting to me that he said that part about the head game, and I was going to try and come back to that, but the conversation moved on because we talk about that a lot in any other more first-person physical things that we're talking about, skateboarding,
right?
Obviously yoga or whatever people are into. But you think about this tool, the car that's wrapped around you,
mm-hmm.
and for most people, myself included, you don't think it's a physical event, but really what you've just described is not only a physical event, but it's a fucking marathon if you're up all night the night before and the weeks before coming up to it too. So it's not just the car's not doing all the work by any means. There's major head game going on there,
and it is the team thing too, which is new for me. I'm very all my grade school teachers marked does not work well with others on my report card. Like that was constant. Talks too much and doesn't work well with others. And it was, I like people, but some things I want to do myself. That engine that you looked over there that was ripped apart, I probably could pay someone and they'd put it together and no problem. But there's something wrong with me that makes me want to do that and figure it out and have it done. And I don't know, there's something to it.
So we'll start to wind down here. We have a couple questions that we pretty much ask most of the guests that come on, and it's just like taking your main passions, and definitely snowboarding and car racing are two. Is there a third that you would throw in there? Top 3 favorite things to do?
That's probably, I don't know, maybe, I don't know that I have any other hobbies. I'm not a golfer. I don't do anything. I've got enough. I don't have enough time for anything else. But the other involvement or thing that I love is just my family. I got 2 little dudes, and
we can't put that in this picture. They're always number one. We just had an awesome time.
I'm gonna pick cars over my family.
I just feel like
I want to drive off every day.
There's such a strong force which you met. Like it's tough to not think of. You can't not think of them first, and then everything else. But really, it's snowboarding and cars. I like being outdoors. I like the camping stuff. I just introduced Cole, my son. We went. There's a Laurel Highlands hiking trail. It goes from Seven Springs. Actually, goes from Ohio Powell through Seven Springs all the way to Johnstown. Oh, wow. And there's shelters every 9 miles. My buddy Evan is hell bent on doing the whole thing, one run, doing the whole 70 miles. I'm not as ambitious with a 6-year-old, so we just hiked in for one of the shelters. It's only a mile or so into it, and just sleeping bags. You sleep in the shelter, and I didn't know how he'd handle it, and he loved it. So cool. I'm looking forward to that. Just being able to go hike with him and let those guys kind of check out just woodsy stuff, and
for this question, we'll leave family off the table. But so between snowboarding and cars, if you could only do one for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
I think I could do both, but if I really had to, I'd probably go back to snowboarding as the choice, just because as much as I love the car thing, you can only share it with whoever's in the car with you. And in the rally car case, it's only one other person. Snowboarding, that's fun. The whole reason that I even started snowboarding was, Jay was a huge reason. He started before I did and got me into it, but then it was that, the bond and all of you guys, meeting everyone through snowboarding. You had this network of friends and you could go do it and go have fun, where, a car, you're kind of selfish. It's the car, and it's a great feeling, but it's not as interactive. And I think I have more fun. If all my friends stopped rallying tomorrow, it would be hard for me to continue doing it. So there's that part of it. I don't know that I would just I don't have the drive to be some crazy rally car driver, or I guess the misconception that it's easy to be one. I'd love it. Somebody send me a car, I'll drive it. But I live in reality. I'm not trying to pursue that path. And where snowboarding, I'd love to just, have some baller status to just rent a couple giant helicopters and take all my favorite people and let's do it. Like, let's go have some fun. I think that would be a good weekend, rather than, hey guys, watch me do donuts in the car and I'll have fun. You guys will just stand out there and breathe the smoke. So
after the endorphin rush that ride that you gave me did, I thought you were going to say cars 100%.
Really?
Because I'm like ready to say cars right now.
Yeah,
I love it.
get rid of my snowboard. It's just like,
well, like I said, I'm not selling it, and I'm totally into it. I think big picture, like I said, a big part of the things I get into are because different people, bring me into it and introduce you to something, and then you're like, this is awesome. Like, this is a great feeling. But I think that it's just cool to share that and be able to just hang out with friends and do it up.
I want to introduce you to something. Next year at Seven Springs this winter, they actually open in the morning. and there's a bunch of us that snowboard there in the morning, before like noon or 1, and it's fun.
But
you try and do that noon quota.
When I get there at noon and you guys tell me, it goes two ways. It's either like, it was miserable, like it just got good, and I'm like, yeah, I know, like that's why I'm here now. Or it's the other way around where it was so good at 10 o'clock. So I do get burnt once in a while by not getting there early, but I know. I mean, I grew up at that mountain, so I know like when things warm up enough and when it's going to be good. And unless it snows a foot of snow, there's not a whole lot of reason that you would see me. And if it did snow over a foot of snow, you probably still wouldn't see me. I wear camouflage. But the
winter camo.
Yeah, I need that. That would be good. But yeah, I no promises on getting there before noon. Noon 30 is a great time to start.
You're right, because there's lots of times that it's good in the morning, but there's lots of times where it doesn't get good until you show up. And then on the way back, I'm always like, Kramer was right.
Yeah. Yeah. So like noon to 3:30ish is like
horrible.
Amazing.
Don't come.
Yeah. Horrible. Stay away. But I'd rather put in a heavy session for those 3 hours than be there. And again, the 16-year-old version of me would kill me for saying that. Like, it would gut me, because that was, the only reason that, that magazine picture, any of that happened was I rode from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day. And, I don't anymore.
I've always been, like, even when I was younger, I felt like there's been times where I do, like, it's hard for me to get up early and go skating.
Yeah.
Like, my body just doesn't function like that. And I think I've always kind of been like that. Like, I've never woken up and like, all right, let's go. It's kind of like throughout the day I warm up.
Yeah.
Even when I was like teenager and like I slept in, but then there's like periods of the day. It's almost sometimes it gets later and later where I'm like focused and I can like do whatever I want to do better. Yeah. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's hard with snowboarding if it's like PAL day. You kind of have to get up early. Right. And I'm like, I rode Sugar Bowl this year and they had lifts closed. They didn't have them open later because of Abbey control. I'm like, this is perfect. Yeah. Like, I hope this happens every day. This is like lining up. Like, I'm here first chair because they're opening at 2. Yep. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to get up early and be ready. Yeah. Ever. Yeah.
And I just feel like you only have that window. Like, I just don't feel like I can put 100% in for 9 hours. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I can do it for 4 hours, and I'd rather get it the best 4 hours of the day. And I always am watching weather. Like, if it's going to storm blowing in, I will show up earlier if I know it's going to get socked out or start raining or snowing in the, later in the day. I'll show up earlier because of that. But, I just don't, morning unless it's snow or freshly groomed morning in the spring is fun. Like, I'm not afraid of that either. And I've made some, and the other problem is I go up there and no one else is there either. So I've riding by myself like a weekday and it's, 40 and sunny, freshly groomed, and no one else is there and nobody else shows up till 12:30. Unfortunately, they're on my schedule now too. So, but it's still fun.
So one other question that we ask is kind of like deep and introspective about life. Is there any advice you'd give yourself if you could meet like your 18-year-old self right now?
That's a good question. I don't know. And I don't know that I'd change anything so much. I kind of, even the things that my 18-year-old self would beat me up for now, like they are what they are. So I can't change any of that. But I would definitely tell myself to, just keep working. I guess I always have though, so I can't give myself advice for things that I've done. Maybe just the one regret I have with snowboarding and kind of the deal was, there was that East Coast West Coast thing with snowboarding slightly, which maybe fueled by, who knows what it was fueled by, but I know that there were we kind of kept our crew, and I was really close with this group of 5-6 dudes, and that was it. So I didn't, there's really cool people I've met in more recent years that I was with the whole time, but I never hung out with them. And I wish I was a little more outgoing and would have got to party with those dudes. There's just some good people that that I have a better relationship with now, that I was like, man, I wish I would have hung out with you. I didn't realize, or I was, we had our own thing. We didn't need anybody else. We had enough friends already. Friend quota was
no new friends.
Yeah, that was kind of how it is, and that's almost a bad thing. So I'd almost say don't be shy, don't be introverted, and not that it's easy to break that stuff, but just experience it all. Go do it. Don't. I was definitely conservative when it came to meeting people and all that good stuff. So.
That's great advice. I've definitely fallen to just drawing these lines about who I am and who my group of friends are, and
right.
That's something you've put in your own head that might not even really be
Absolutely.
there.
It's all made up, and it's crazy when I think about it. 'Cause I'm like, oh, why didn't I hang out with this person and that person? It was it's almost like if you weren't from the East Coast, we can't hang out. And as weird as that sounds, that it was Biggie Pac beef. It really was. Yeah. And it was strange. And I definitely, once I stopped doing that or met some more people, I was like, wow, you got a cool thing going on here. You're doing something that I wouldn't necessarily do, or doing it differently, but it's it's a parallel line. It's just way over there, but it's still cool.
Yeah.
So,
John, this was so fun, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. This whole day has been amazing.
This has been the best day. Yeah, I've been on an adventure lately.
Just another day.
I've just been doing adventuring after adventuring.
Yeah, that's my deal. I really I'm into even the car thing. I think will probably morph a bit for me. Not that I'll get away from rally cars, but I'm fascinated with. That's why I keep asking you about your truck. But even just Japanese, the Hilux Surf Toyotas and some of the crazy diesel powered stuff. I may start bringing some of that stuff over and playing with it a little bit, and just have these cool excursion vehicles and actually use them. Go on some cool camping trips. Go just do some cross country exploration.
Did I tell you about the solar panel that I have on the way and the Goal Zero setup and everything?
No, but I'm
hella crunchy.
I've been camping out of the back of that camper.
That's cool.
And I'm kidding it out a little bit now.
Nice.
A little bit of power back there.
That's great.
All the solar stuff shipped today, so
yeah.
Put a little bed back there.
That's great. I'm all about it. I think that's a cool. Of the fads and trends and things that I've seen, that one really, I like it. I just think that it's cool that it's man machine, and then just that you're getting outside and doing it. You're not chained to a rectangle, whether it's that one or a phone.
It's really driven by surf for me, because snowboarding, a day trip to Springs, we've done in 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I plan on staying in Springs now too, a little bit in there.
Yeah.
Adding some insulation, a little heater.
Right.
But surf, man, it's a 4-hour drive every time, and then it's we're going to turn around and do this on the way home after surfing all day and being exhausted.
Yeah.
But going down, spending a couple days there, you really get your money's worth out of that time, more so than. And I have the flexibility to do that now too.
Yeah.
Where before it's oh fuck, Monday.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's that whole, I was telling you before about just different cars, and once you're past worrying about it and you use it, I think that could be a real useful vehicle if you get something that I can haul 4 people, which means my family, haul a bunch of junk and run over pretty much anything. You got your doomsday prep machine.
We saw that black van that's on your Instagram.
Oh yeah,
so we drove by it on the way
good,
up here.
Right?
It's a local car, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't see it that often, but I always see it here. So I don't know who it is. I haven't met the guy, but yeah, it is. I always see it.
Yeah, we just passed it. It was going this way. I was like, AJ, that's the van. That's the van.
I miss it.
Yeah, it's a 4-wheel drive van, but it's like lifted. It's all blacked out, and it's pretty good.
Aftermarket bumpers on it.
Right. Yeah,
cool.
The bumpers are a good touch.
I think that's it. I think we did it. That was really awesome.
Cool.
That was really cool. Thank you for
I'm high on
everything. Really,
I'm glad you guys.
And I don't normally do that stuff.
Yeah, I mean we've been.
Sorry, we didn't talk a whole lot about snowboarding either.
So please check the show notes located at the Not Snowboarding Podcast website for more pictures of John racing and links to his race results. Follow him on Instagram at Jet Ski Attack. Jason is JAHHM. And follow the racing crew, Heavy Metal Motorsports, at Listen to Heavy Metal on Instagram as well. I can't thank John and his wife Susie enough for being so welcoming to us. We kind of showed up, ripped around the car for a couple hours, and then they fed us an amazing dinner, surprised us with Jay Smith, and recorded a really fun podcast episode. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, peace.